Your phone buzzes at 11:52 p.m. Direct deposit hit an hour ago. You open the app anyway. $6,340. That's everything. Checking, savings, the one index fund you started last spring. You've been at this job 3 years, you've gotten 2 raises, and somehow this number is almost exactly what it was a year ago. Not less, not more, just stuck. You close the app, you open it again 10 minutes later like it might say something different this time. It doesn't. Here's what nobody explains to you at 25. Money doesn't grow the way you think it does. It doesn't climb in a straight line. It moves in 6 distinct stages, and one of them is a trap so quiet, so normal looking, that almost everyone gets stuck inside it for years without ever noticing. You're about to find out exactly which stage you're standing in right now. And by the end of this, you'll know the one decision, the one most people never make, that decides whether you climb out in 3 years or stay frozen for the next 15. Stage 1 starts lower than you think. You're 25. You make $41,000 a year at a job with a decent title and a bad parking situation. Rent is $1,300. Split 2 ways with a roommate you found on a Facebook group 6 months ago. Her name doesn't matter. What matters is she Venmos you her half on the 3rd, sometimes the 5th, and you never say anything about the 2-day gap. Your checking account sits around $300 most weeks, sometimes less. There was a Tuesday last month it hit -$11 because a Spotify family renewal hit before your paycheck did. You didn't panic, you just moved $40 from savings and didn't think about it again. That's the thing about stage 1. It's not dramatic. Nobody's crying in a parking lot. You're just careful, all the time, about everything. You check your bank app more than you check your texts. Not out of fear, exactly. More like a habit you didn't choose. A reflex. The system doesn't see you yet. Not really. Your bank sends you a push notification when your balance drops below $50. That's the entire relationship. A number, a threshold, an automated ping. Nobody at that bank has ever said your name out loud. You get declined for a store credit card at checkout. Not embarrassing exactly, just quiet. The cashier barely looks up. You tap your debit card instead and move on with your day. Here's the part that's hard to explain to anyone who isn't in it. You're not broke. You have a job. You have direct deposit. You have a savings account with $412 sitting in it, untouched, on purpose. But every decision runs through the same filter. Can I afford this and also afford the thing 3 days from now that I haven't thought of yet? You order DoorDash on a Friday. Then you cancel it 11 minutes later because the delivery fee alone is $9 and that's basically a coffee and a bagel you could have just made. Nobody sees that moment. You barely register it yourself. It's just Tuesday. It's just how the math works when the math is this tight. You stop comparing your life to your college roommates a while back. She posts from Portugal. You mute the story not out of bitterness. It just doesn't help. Looking at that too long feels like standing too close to a fire. Not painful exactly, just uncomfortable in a way you can't quite name. The truth about stage 1 isn't that you're failing. It's that fear is doing all your thinking for you, and you don't even notice it's the one driving. Fear doesn't ask for permission. It just takes the wheel. Somewhere in the middle of this, maybe a Sunday night, maybe payday, something small happens. You pay off a $30 late fee you'd forgotten about, and for half a second, you feel lighter than the amount should make you feel. That's nothing. That's the first crack in the floor. Something shifts. Not the job, not the salary, just the number. $4,100 in savings. You didn't plan a moment to celebrate it. It just crossed a line one Thursday while you were making coffee. You get a flat tire on the way to work. $91 at the shop down the street. A year ago, that would have meant moving money between 3 accounts and doing math in the parking lot. Now you just pay it. You don't even open the calculator app. That's the whole difference. Not the tire. The not doing math part. Your roommate splits again. Same as always, except this time you don't notice the 2-day gap on Venmo. You genuinely don't check. You still live in the same apartment, same shared kitchen, same thin walls, same argument about whose turn it is to buy paper towels. Nothing around you changed. Just what's sitting underneath it. The bank doesn't call you. Let's be clear about that. Nobody at any bank has learned your name yet, but the push notifications stop. No more your balance dropped below $50 at 11 p.m. That alert simply goes quiet. You don't get a message telling you it's gone. You just notice one day that it hasn't buzzed in weeks. You open a high-yield savings account through an app on your phone, 4-point-something%. You transfer $600 into it on a Sunday night, mostly out of curiosity, partly because a coworker mentioned it once at lunch, and you didn't want to ask what it meant. Then your dog throws up twice in 1 week, and the vet visit runs you $840. A year ago, this would have been a 5-alarm event. You would have stared at your phone doing math you didn't want to do, moving money between accounts like you were diffusing something. Instead, you just pay it. Tap your card. Sign the receipt. Drive home with your dog asleep in the back seat. It's nothing. $800 still stings a little, still means you skip a couple of things this month. But it doesn't wreck you. That's the whole difference between this stage and the last one. The emergency showed up right on schedule, it just didn't win. You still don't tell anyone your numbers. That part hasn't changed and won't for a long time. But something else is different now, and it's this. You stop treating every purchase like a referendum on your survival. You order the DoorDash. You don't cancel it 11 minutes later. You don't think about the delivery fee at all, actually, until the receipt hits your email the next morning, and even then it barely registers. This is the first time money stops being the only voice in the room. It's still loud. It's just not the only one talking anymore. You start reading things you didn't used to read, not because someone told you to. A video shows up in your feed about index funds, and you actually watch the whole thing instead of scrolling past. You don't open a brokerage account yet, you just file it away. Noted? Not now. Later. Here's what nobody tells you about this stage, and it's the part that matters most. The fear doesn't disappear, it just gets quieter. It moves from your chest to somewhere further back, somewhere you only feel it if you go looking. You still check the app, you just don't need to. That's the whole shift, and it happens so gradually most people don't notice it happening to them until it already has. Relief isn't loud, it never announces itself, it just stops interrupting you. 2 raises in, $58,000 a year now. You moved out of the shared apartment 8 months ago. 1 bedroom, your own bathroom, a lease with just your name on it. Rent went from $650 split 2 ways to $1,480 on your own. You did the math before you signed it. It worked. Barely, but it worked. You leased a car. Not a flashy one. A Civic, actually, the same kind you used to drive. Except this one's new, and the payment is $340 a month. And you didn't really think about the 6 years of payments ahead of it. You thought about the smell of the interior on the test drive. Here's the strange part. None of this feels reckless. Every single decision felt earned. You worked for the raise, you deserved the apartment. The car needed replacing anyway. The old one had 200,000 miles on it and a check engine light that never turned off. You check your net worth one night. Not your bank balance. Your actual net worth, all of it added up, debts subtracted. $19,000. You stare at it for a second longer than you meant to. 18 months ago it was around $12,000. You've gotten 2 raises since then. You make more money than you ever have in your life, and the number barely moved. This is the part nobody explains to you at 25, and it's the part that quietly traps more people than any recession ever will. Your income went up, your life expanded to swallow every dollar of it before it had a chance to land anywhere else. The bank doesn't do anything dramatic here either. No calls, no red flags. You're just average now. A normal customer with a normal checking account and a normal credit score. Nobody's watching you closely in either direction. You tell your coworkers about the raise. You don't tell them the number in your brokerage account hasn't changed in over a year. Those are 2 completely different conversations, and you've learned without anyone teaching you which one is safe to have out loud. That's the part that gets lonely, in a way you can't quite name. Not lonely like stage 1. That was fear. This is different. You're not struggling anymore, you're not thriving either. You're standing in the middle of 2 conversations and belonging fully to neither one. You watch a friend from college post about her Roth IRA hitting 6 figures. You're happy for her. You also close the app faster than you meant to. A coworker named Priya, 3 years in, same title as you, same salary almost exactly, mentions offhand that she still drives her college car. Paid off. No payment at all. You don't ask her anything else about it. You just remember it later, at a strange hour, for no clear reason. Every raise you've gotten came with an upgrade that used it up completely. Nobody forced that trade. You made it, one decision at a time, and each one felt like the reward you'd earned, rather than the reason you weren't moving. Lifestyle doesn't creep in loud. It creeps in reasonably. Something changes before you notice it changing. You're 31. Net worth crosses $118,000. Brokerage, the 401k from 3 jobs ago you finally rolled over, a little bit of home equity from the condo you bought 2 years back. You didn't do anything different this year. Same job, roughly the same salary bump you always get. But you open the account on a random Tuesday, and the balance is $14,000 higher than it was in January. You didn't put in $14,000, you put in about 6. The other 8 just showed up. Sat there overnight while you slept, while you were at brunch, while you were doing literally anything else. You do the math once, almost by accident, standing in a grocery store parking lot. The market moved up 2% overnight. Your portfolio made more before you'd finished your coffee than you spent the entire weekend at that same store. You put your phone away and load the groceries into the trunk like it's nothing. It doesn't feel like nothing. It just doesn't feel like anything you have words for yet. This is the part that's hard to explain to someone who hasn't felt it yet. For 6 years, every dollar of progress came from you. From not ordering the delivery, from the raise you didn't spend. Now, for the first time, some of the progress comes from money you already have, gradually making more of itself in the background. The bank notices this before you fully register it yourself. A credit limit increase shows up without you asking. $12,000 to $22,000. Just a notification one morning. Nobody explains why. Nobody has to. The algorithm looked at your balances and decided you were a different kind of risk than you were 3 years ago. You get a call, an actual person, not a robot, from someone at the bank asking if you'd like to set up a 15-minute call about your financial goals. You almost don't pick up. You've never gotten this call before in your life. Here's the quieter shift, the one that matters more than the interest rate or the credit line. You start treating yourself differently, not just the bank. You buy a $32 bottle of wine for a friend's birthday, and you don't do the math first. You don't open the calculator app. You don't think about the DoorDash fee from 6 years ago, the one you canceled at the last second. That version of you feels distant now, not gone, just further away than it used to be. You still drive the leased Civic. You never upgraded the apartment again after that first jump. The lifestyle crept once, hard, and you caught it, mostly by accident. Mostly because a coworker mentioned her paid-off car at exactly the wrong or right moment. You start reading about something called an expense ratio. You move your old 401k out of a fund charging almost 1% and into one charging 0.06%. You don't fully understand why it matters yet. You just know it's supposed to matter, so you do it, and you move on with your day. A bad week at work stops feeling like a crisis. Your boss says something cutting in a meeting, and you notice, for the first time, that your stomach doesn't drop the way it used to. You have options now that didn't exist 18 months ago. You haven't used any of them yet. You just know they're there. This is the part almost nobody tells you about money. The fear didn't leave when you got rich. It left back at stage 3, the day you stopped needing every dollar to survive the week. Everything after that was just the machine catching up to a decision you already made. You're 36. Net worth crosses $640,000. Nothing about your apartment looks different. You upgraded once, years ago, to a 2-bedroom you use half of as an office. You still drive a car with a payment, though it's paid off now, has been for 2 years, and you never bothered to lease another one. The difference isn't visible from the outside. It's in a number you check maybe once a month instead of once a day, because checking it more often doesn't change what it's doing. Your investments earned $31,000 this year. You didn't do anything to earn that. You went to work, you paid your bills, you took a trip to Colorado in October. The money just kept compounding in the background, little by little, for a decade now, except the number attached to it finally has some weight. $31,000 is close to what you made in your first full year out of college. You sit with that for a second, and then you keep scrolling your phone, because it doesn't feel like a headline. It just feels like Tuesday. The bank has a name for you now, internally, that you'll never actually hear out loud. You just notice the effects of it. A mortgage pre-approval letter shows up for a house you never applied for, at a rate slightly better than the one your coworker mentioned getting last spring. Nobody explains the difference. You don't ask. Here's the part that changes gradually. Underneath everything else, a recruiter reaches out about a job, more money, worse hours, a boss with a reputation you've heard about secondhand. 5 years ago, you would have taken the call out of instinct, out of needing to at least see the number. You let it go to voicemail, not because you don't want more money, because the fear that used to make every opportunity feel mandatory isn't running the decision anymore. You have options now instead of obligations, and those are two completely different things wearing the same outfit. You still don't tell people your number. That instinct never left. If anything, it's gotten stronger. A friend from stage 1 days asks you for $400, rent's short this month just until Friday. You send it without checking your balance first. You don't think about it again after you hit send. He thanks you in a way that carries more weight than the amount does. You notice that. You don't say anything about it. A different friend at dinner hears about the trip to Colorado and says, half joking, "Must be nice." You laugh, because that's what you're supposed to do. You don't know how to answer it honestly. Saying it took 12 years of not upgrading my car would sound like an excuse. Saying nothing feels like agreeing you got lucky. So you just laugh and change the subject and order another round. This is the part almost nobody warns you about. The distance between you and the people who are still where you used to be isn't dramatic. Nobody drifted on purpose. You just live inside different math now, and math, this different, doesn't always translate across a dinner table, even when the affection is completely real. You start asking a different question about your job. Not can I afford to leave it? Can I afford to stay in it for reasons other than money? You don't have an answer yet. You don't need one yet either. That's the whole shift at this stage. And it's quieter than anyone tells you it'll be. The money stopped being the loudest thing in the room a while ago. What's left now is just you and whatever you actually want to do with the time it bought back. You're 43. Net worth crosses $1.1 million. You find out on a Wednesday in between meetings, glancing at your phone in the hallway outside a conference room. You close the app and walk into the meeting. Nobody in that room knows what just happened. You don't tell them. Here's the thing nobody prepares you for. You thought this number would feel like something. A door opening, a weight lifting, some kind of internal fireworks display. It doesn't. It feels like Wednesday. Your portfolio earned more this year than your salary did. Not close, more. $70-some thousand without fanfare, while you were doing your actual job, picking up dry cleaning, arguing with your partner about whose turn it was to load the dishwasher. The apartment is a house now. Nothing extravagant. 3 bedrooms, a yard your dog uses more than you do. You drive the same car you've driven for 6 years. You've stopped noticing the model year. It just runs. The bank barely factors into your life anymore. And that's the whole point. You're not a category to them, chaste or curded. You're just a person with accounts that manage themselves, mostly because you set them up correctly a long time ago and then left them alone. Here's the part that matters more than any of the numbers. Somewhere back around stage 3 or 4, you can't pinpoint exactly when. The fear that used to run every decision simply stopped showing up. Not because you got rich, because you stopped needing every single dollar to survive the coming week. That was the actual moment everything changed. This, the house, the number on the screen, the $70,000 year your money had without you. This is just the machine catching up to a decision you made a long time ago, one that didn't feel like much of anything at the time. A friend asks what it's like, having made it. You don't correct the phrase, but it doesn't quite fit. You didn't arrive anywhere. You just stopped being afraid, one ordinary Tuesday at a time, so gradually you never noticed the exact day it happened. You still remember the $11, the negative balance from the Spotify renewal, the DoorDash order you canceled over a $9 fee. You remember it the way you remember an apartment you used to live in, clearly, but from a distance, like it belonged to someone slightly different from you. It did. And it didn't. Somewhere tonight, a 25-year-old opens a banking app in the dark. Direct deposit hit an hour ago. The number staring back is $6,340. She doesn't know yet which stage she's standing in. She doesn't know there's a name for what's about to happen to her, or that most people get stuck in the exact same place for the exact same reason, wearing it like a normal life instead of a trap. She just closes the app and orders the food anyway. The stages were never really about the money. They were about who got to make tomorrow's decision, fear or her.